Friend, your 40s should not be the decade that you finally start living. It should, however, be the decade that you enjoy the life you intentionally mapped out in your 30s. In today's video, I'm sharing how I'm designing my joy map to ensure that my future self never has to choose between her success and her soul. Let's get into it. Now, you know, I'm in peak auntie mode with the moo-moo, the tea, and some crackers. I'm really comfortable. What's this, day 25? Yeah, y'all are getting to know the real me. In today's video, like I said, I wanted to talk about the joy map because I don't think that the girls in their 30s are using autonomy and internal authority enough. Like, we are going to be 40 soon enough. And if we don't start being intentional about our joy now, what are we gonna look like when we're in our 40s? I don't know. So what is a joy map? It's essentially being the architect of your 40s in your 30s. Finding the things that bring you joy, being intentional about curating the experiences, the moments, your circle, and finding the things that you don't have to perform to do. And that starts in this decade right here. I am so committed to ensuring that my 30s and 40s are like the best time of my life. Anything after that, I'll get to it when I get there. But right now, I'm only focused on these eras because I'm midway through my 30s. And what I'm seeing from women in their 40s is how much they want to change their life because they followed the model and they followed all the rules and they aren't happy. I refuse to be like that at my 40s. I just don't want to do. So I said, hey, let me figure out the things that I want to consistently do in this decade that's going to set me up for a joyful, beautiful life in the next. And I decided to call it a joy map because I am all about joy. Not just happiness, because I think that's just a fleeting emotion, but joy is something that comes from the gut. It comes from your spirit. It's the thing that really lights you up on the inside. And mapping out what that looks like now is gonna save me a ton of headache and probably heartache in my 40s. What I had to do in order to create this joy map was really shift my perspective from performance to preservation. In your 20s and your 30s, I feel like the focus is on performance, right? How well you do, how much you show up in your friendships and your relationships, how great you are at your job and what it is that you do for a living, even how amazing you are at your habits, right? Like working out and eating properly. But the 40s for me feel like preservation. What is keeping me going? What's keeping me up and sustaining me? I really think that preservation is the priority in your 40s and your 50s and beyond. How can I preserve my joy? How can I preserve my wealth? How can I preserve the relationships that are aligned for me? I feel like it's really important to switch the lens that you view these habits so that you start building habits that are not based around how well you're doing it, but how well it makes you feel mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially even. That's so good. In this era of my life, the things that I consider non-negotiables for me are tea, movement, and silence. You're gonna see me drink tea. I love tea. It's something about the process of making a cup, sharing tea, healing yourself with herbs, eating crackers or a sandwich or fruit with tea. I just love the whole vibe of being a tea girly. The next thing for me is movement. I've been doing these stretch classes in Thailand and they have been relieving so much stress that I didn't even know was pent up in me. I left the US 2 years ago and I'm still unlearning and releasing the energy from the stress that I incurred living in the States. That stress class has done wonders for my mental as well as my physical body. And I am so grateful to have spaces where I can just go and move myself. And even when I'm not outside, just doing stretching every day, doing yoga and Pilates and lifting a little weights. I mean, anything that gets me moving, even if it's just a walk, 10 out of 10 would recommend. And the last thing, silence, meditation, breath work, even doing a 30-second reset where you just close your eyes and focus on your breath. These are small, free things that you can do every single day that'll help you focus less on performance and more on preservation. I am focused on being so intentional about these non-negotiables for me because I understand the impact of consistently doing tea times and movement, medicine, and silence as a priority. I understand the impact. Now, I'm not sure what your non-negotiables are, but sis, get started on them. Write them down, figure out what they are. What are you absolutely going to do on a daily, almost daily basis to move you into the joyous era of your 40s? I have a few habits, a few metrics on my joy map that I'm calling them triggers, right? I have a few joy triggers that I'm using to map out the habits that I keep in my 30s and my 40s. See, these are the small, repeatable actions that remind and signal your nervous system that you are safe, that you are successful, and that you are satisfied. I'm gonna give you my 3, but I wanna encourage you to really think about yours. And it doesn't have to be 3, it could be 5 or maybe 7, but don't do too many. You just need a few that kind of cement for you that you are okay. Here's my 3. The first one is a sensory anchor. This lets my body know that I am present and worthy of comfort right now. Anything that I can do to center myself and ground myself and let myself know that it is okay. Any sensory things that remind me that I am grounded, that is a joy trigger immediately. It could be a song, it could be a scent, okay? It could be a candle, it could be lighting, it could be dark showers. Any of the things that really impact the 5 senses are considered a sensory anchor for me. The next joy trigger is micro adventures. I'll call this anti-routine. And it really is a thing that reminds me and lets me know that I am still exploring and that life is not a fixed loop. Taking a different route, going somewhere you would have never gone before, eating food that you would have never eaten before. All of these are micro adventures for me. It doesn't require too much of me. It just requires me to be present and to have an explorer's mindset so that when I'm going, I'm just open and I'm flexible. My last trigger is play without purpose. And we can call this one the human being shift, because we're not human doing, we're human being. And this trigger really lets me know that I don't have to be productive to be valuable. My being is enough. And it can look like doing anything that has no real ROI. There's no point to it. You're just doing it to be doing. It could be painting. It could be decorating the kitchen. It could be just, I don't know, changing the colors around the house. Whatever triggers joy for you when it comes to play without a purpose, it is just for the fun of it. And as adults, we get so caught up in doing things for money because we need money to live. But we do have to carve out intentional spaces for simple joys. And if you're bad at whatever you're doing, bonus points for that. Think about any type of craft, or not even a craft, but think about anything that you could be doing that centers you in being a human being and not a human doing. And then do that as your play without a purpose. Now, think about some that you could instill in your 30s that would set you up for a joyous decade in your 40s. I'm gonna give you two just in case you wanna hold on to these. The first one is curated silence. What will trigger for you that your company is enough? A lot of times there is so much noise going on in the world that joy is curated when there isn't anything happening. The second one is selective connection as a joy trigger. I spoke about this in day 22, where your circle will shrink. As you get older, I feel like people have less and less core friends because you just want to see people who align with you. So selective connection is about looking at the people that are still in your space and saying to yourself, I am surrounded by mirrors of my future and not my past. How can you use selective connection to trigger that joy in your social circle, in your familiar circle, in your relational circle? Those are two extras for you. I hope those trigger something else within you that brings you joy, but there's so many others that you can think of on your own time. And the goal of the joy triggers are just to signal to your nervous system that you are safe. That's it. I feel like every era requires a different version of us. But as we millennials get into our 40s, that era right there really gives, I need to be a different girl. I need to be more discerning. I need to be more clear. I need to be more sharp on what it is that brings me joy and the things that I just simply don't want to do. Not for money, not to waste my time, not to be kind. There are those things that I am completely learning to disown and distance myself from so that I can be clear as I lead up into this next decade. So you can try to be the same in your 40s, sis, but I don't think that's going to work for us. You know what I mean? The one thing I will continue to do in my 40s that I've been doing my entire life is laughing. Your girl loves a laugh. Your girl loves jokes. I like watching comedies. I am just a funny girl, and that is the one thing that I will not stop doing. But I do want to challenge you to think about one habit that you have, something that you do that you are keeping just for joy in your 40s. Drop it in the comments because I really would love to read what you plan on continuing to do in this decade and the next. If you're watching this and you're realizing you don't even know where to begin to think about a joy trigger because you spent most of your life managing someone else's or everyone else's, this is what we do in Glow Sessions. We get clear, we strip away all the roles and the titles and find the triggers that actually make you feel alive. And we build a strategy around that. I would love to help you do that work. If you're interested in a session, click the link in the description and let's chat. 25 days in, y'all. I'm gonna keep going with this. Again, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm getting more comfortable. I am speaking more clearly and I'm having fun. Sitting here eating crackers and drinking tea. I hope you join me for day 26. I really want to get into how I stopped performing for approval in some of my closest relationships. Yeah. I'll see you tomorrow, friend.